Hello and welcome to Blank Plate, a podcast for Swifties with an appetite.
I'm Sara, and I used to be a little kid with glasses in a twin-size bed.
I'm Laura, and I'm a mess, but I'm the mess that you wanted.
And we've got a blank plate, baby, and we'll write your name. Laura's definitely a mess today.
Sure am. Everything that has and could go wrong has gone wrong. Oh my God.
Man, talk about technological issues.
And welcome to season 3, everybody.
It's been a struggle to get here, but we are here.
We've been out of practice. Yeah.
We are.
Like,
was forgetting how to set everything up when I was getting ready to record tonight.
Everything on my end just refused to work as it was supposed to. My mic was crackling, headphones disconnect, like everything that could go wrong has been going wrong. But we're here and we're excited to catch up. So should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. We have a lot to catch up on.
Okay, so 2025 has begun. And personally, 2 themes. Normally, January is when I feel at my most Capricorn rising self, when I'm like making goals and making lists and like new chapters, like new year, new me vibes. Not this year. I was very sick. I was very much bonding with my couch and my bed. And I got really sick over holiday break and also enjoyed a few snow days. So that was kind of nice. So basically taking a minute and like going really slow. And the second theme I would say has been like lots of family time, which has been really nice. My dad is Scottish American, so we hosted our first Burns night with my family, which is essentially like a night of Robert Burns poetry and Scottish food and Scottish music and singing and all sorts of stuff like that. And it was really fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. And unexpectedly, my cousins, who I love very much, flew in from LA. They were not directly affected by the LA fires, but very, very narrowly avoided serious catastrophe. But they came in after experiencing the LA fires to their grandfather passing. Not my grandfather, but their dad's grandfather. Regardless, it was a very tough couple of weeks for them. And yeah, so they came into Pennsylvania and got to spend some time with them, even though it was sad. I love spending time with them. So any time together is still quality time. So that was really nice to be there for them and stuff like that. Yeah, it's been kind of a sad start of 2025.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
I think for a lot of people, for sure.
Yes.
I've also had like a similar slow start to the year because I also got sick. Like Christmas night, I started to feel sick.
Yeah.
And this is early February, and I feel like in the last week, I finally started feeling like consistently normal again, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whatever virus was going around was gnarly.
Slow recovery. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like my rotting season lasted longer than normal. I also tend to get like kind of energized in the new year, and I love like organizing and, you know, preparing for the new year and setting goals and stuff. But there were like many nights where Josh and I just sat on the couch for like a few hours and watched TV.
You have to, especially when you're like on the mend, you're not feeling 100%, like, you know?
Yeah. And thankfully, you know, we had taken a little holiday break for the podcast. So it's like there wasn't a ton that I was like feeling called to be doing otherwise. But we did do some home updates. So I did end up getting into my organization, like New Year's vibe. Because we like finally got a sectional for our living room that we've been meaning to do since I moved in back in March. And I also got like some used dressers for storage, which was like huge. So then I was like doing my favorite thing of organizing drawers. Like I was sending Laura pictures of my handiwork to be like, look at this drawer and how organized
Job
it
well
is.
done.
Yeah. Like I love getting the little trays that perfectly fit certain things that fit in the drawers. And this is where like the whole Marie Kondo thing truly changed my life. Like I think I read that book in like 2017 or 2016.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That was the minimalism time.
Yeah. And it has, like, there are so many things I took from that book that I still incorporate in my everyday life. Like, my dresser drawers in my bedroom have not changed. And they have stayed so organized because I like follow her tips and stuff. Like, but yeah, so that brought me a lot of joy. Like sometimes I just open my drawers so I can look at them because it makes me happy.
I feel like my life is the exact opposite. Like it looks fine from the surface. Like if you walk into my house, you're like, oh, this is pretty clean.
Huh?
Don't open up a single drawer. Like it is a disaster zone. And that's like probably how my life is too. It's like, oh, it looks fine on the surface, but like, oh my God, there's just like so much stuff under the surface that's just like, we'll deal with that later.
And also I'm in my Pilates era now.
You really are.
Yeah, I'm going to Pilates tomorrow morning, but we had a new studio that opened near me here in Allentown, and I'd been wanting to try it out. It's the like reformer Pilates with the actual machine that you get on. So I like signed up for an introductory class and did like their lowest membership option, which was at a discount because it was a new place and stuff. So I don't know how consistent I will be with it because it is pricey.
So expensive.
Yeah, but I do love it. Like,
well,
it's great. It's great. It feels like really nice on my body because it's so low impact.
Yeah.
But you still get this strength training from it. And it's like kind of works on like flexibility and mobility as well.
Yeah.
So
it's super good for you. Also, like being a Pilates girly is a vibe. So just gotta say.
And these instructors are a vibe for sure.
Yeah. I understand. I understand the hype. Like I get it. I think I would also be very much into it, but it's just so expensive.
It is. And then like there's only 12 people in a class. So the instructor can really like walk around and make sure everyone's okay and, you know, help you with adjustments and stuff. So yeah. But also you and I had a lovely catch up day recently where we hung out and we did like planning for the podcast and we had lunch. And do you want to tell them what else we did?
Yeah, well, we had our Christmas exchange, which of course was Swiftie themed, as you might expect. So I got Sara I got her a Swiftie t-shirt. I'm sure you'll wear it on the pod and you can show it off. Yeah. And like, you know, some like other Swiftie things. But Sara got me a handmade, custom made Taylor Swift Guess Who game. Guess Who, Taylor's version. And I have to post about this on TikTok. Like that's gonna happen within the coming weeks. But this is amazing. And it's exactly like the Guess Who that you remember from your childhood, except it has all the Swiftie, the girl gang, the enemies, the ex-boyfriends, the collaborators, all of it. Yeah. And if you want to play a game with your Swiftie friends that is so fun, you gotta do it. And I'm telling Sara she needs to sell this. So it's so fun.
I might.
It was like one of the most thoughtful and cool games like ever. So
yeah, it was very fun because we could ask questions like, is this an ex-boyfriend? Or is there a song about this person?
Is this person from the 1989 era? Is this, do we like this person? Yeah. That's my personal question. Do we like this person? Like them? No? Okay, got it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's been really, like, I want to bring it to our Super Bowl party that we're going to have this upcoming weekend.
Definitely.
With our other Swiftie friends. Well, should we share our goals, for, like, our mutual goals for 2025? Because you guys, we're entering our girl boss era. Okay? We're girl bossing.
We are. We are in our girl boss era.
our girl boss era. Let's talk about our personal goals, and then we'll talk about our mutual goals.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Go first.
Me first? Okay.
Yeah.
So girl boss era is 3 things for me. 1, I want to get my photography biz going. I want to shoot a wedding and one elopement. I know it'll happen. I just like want to like say it to the universe and get it happen. And I've been writing a lot on Substack. Right now I have about K subscribers. So like over 1,000 subscribers.
Which is awesome, by the way.
I know. I love it. And like, honestly, guys, like if you haven't explored Substack, if you want like a safe space for cozy vibes reading, it is a reading based platform primarily. There are other like videos and stuff, but it's mostly for articles. I highly suggest Substack. I feel like it's my safe space, my safe social media space. But I want 10K subscribers by the end of the year, and I think I can do it. So, yeah. And then I want to go to Scandinavia. Awesome. That's like my summer trip. Right. I know.
Well, I think I can do it. You did book a flight to Norway already, right?
I booked a flight to Norway, and that's it. So
okay, so you're going.
I'm going.
You're going.
Unless the world collapses. So, right. Which could happen.
Which could happen.
Right. So I'd love to do like a full like Norway, Sweden, Copenhagen. We want to go back to Amsterdam and then like fly out somewhere, sort of like that Northern Europe trip. We've never really gone. Well, we've been to Amsterdam, but we've never done Scandinavia. So that would be something new. So that's the goal. So we'll get there, hopefully.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. How about your goals?
Well, for me, this year is what I'm calling Operation Pregnancy. So like I had mentioned briefly before how like in 2024, I was going through the IVF process. And so what like a little more info about that is that I learned that I have a condition where my ovaries have shut down way ahead of schedule. So I'm actually reaching menopause prematurely by about like 15 years.
Yeah.
So I was told right away by my fertility doctor that I would likely need an egg donor for IVF and not be able to use my own eggs. But of course, I was like, I love a challenge and I'm not giving up on these eggs until I give them a shot. So we did attempt IVF with my own eggs. And so it took until my 3rd round of shots before I had enough follicles to actually do an egg retrieval. And if you're not super familiar with IVF, this might all sound like mumbo jumbo, but if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I was able to do an egg retrieval at the beginning of December, and it felt like very promising at the time when it was happening. It was like the most promising moment I had had so far in my IVF stuff. But then that egg retrieval did not result in any embryos. So unfortunately, that essentially confirmed that like of the few eggs that I have left in my body, like they're just not usable. And like I'm 35. That is already like kind of like a cutoff age for when egg quality starts to decline and a woman's like fertility really starts to go downhill. So it's already like a scary age for people like me who are trying to get pregnant. But because of my condition, I'm actually more similar to like a 48 or 50-year-old woman trying to get pregnant. And the thing is, they don't do IVF with those women with their own eggs. Like they literally just don't. So what we did in 2024 confirmed the suspicions of my doctor, which is that my eggs are acting like the eggs of a 48 to 50-year-old woman, which means I can't use them. Like they literally will not result in a pregnancy or even an embryo, as we discovered. So that is obviously like devastating, to learn that I cannot have my own biological child. It's obviously emotional for me, which sucks. But anyway, also like, I want to say like, I'm talking about it here because prior to me going through this, like I never really heard anyone talk about this.
Right.
And so I'd rather be someone going through this who does talk about it and help spread awareness of it.
Yeah.
Because it is more common than we think. And I think that using an egg donor can come with like some shame, because it's like my eggs don't work, you know, or like I don't have them. Like I barely have any. And it's like, it's not my fault. There's nothing I could have done to change this. It's just like the lot I was given in life. And it sucks, but I am extremely fortunate that we have the option of doing egg donor IVF, like scientifically, but also it is a very expensive process, even though it's certainly not going to be easy for us financially to do this. Like we are going to make it work. And I know like a lot of people wouldn't even have that option. So yeah, it's like something I've been like dealing with a lot with this is like, it sucks so bad and it's really, really painful. But at the same time, I'm like so fortunate to be able to do what I'm doing and that this is an option for me. So it's like the dialectic thinking that I discuss with my therapist on a regular basis is what it's called. Two things can be true at the same time.
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, so basically we have kind of really thrown ourselves into the egg donor process. I actually like just officially selected my donor like yesterday.
Wow.
Yes. So...
Is it who we were discussing over our meetup?
No, it's a new one.
Okay. Fill me in later. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I will say choosing an egg donor felt like buying a house. Like it was
so crazy.
It was a crazy process.
Yeah.
But we're doing frozen eggs, so the process is actually like fairly quick compared to like using what they call a fresh donor. So I should hopefully be doing an embryo transfer this summer to hopefully get pregnant.
Operation Pregnancy, baby.
Operation Pregnancy. So as someone who loves control, I'm like, okay, the only thing I have left to control about this situation is trying to make sure that my body is like the healthiest host it can be for an embryo to like hopefully facilitate a healthy pregnancy and everything. So I'm really going to try to focus on my diet and exercising and trying to keep my stress levels down, you know, getting plenty of sleep, like all that stuff, but especially diet for me. And I love the sweets. I have a sweet tooth. Okay.
She really does.
I love the sweets. And my husband Josh does as well. So there are many times where we're like, let's go get ice cream. Or he'll just like come home with a pack of Oreos or something. So,
or two
packs. God forbid. But yeah, so I'm really trying to mainly focus on diet, aiming for like a Mediterranean diet, cutting back on the sweets. I already like don't drink, so you know, that's not a problem, but
yeah. Well, thank you for being very, I know it's cliche, but thanks for being brave and sharing your story.
Thank you.
It sounds really cliche, but it's true. I feel like I would be very scared to share that vulnerably with our listeners. So I'm sure that there are people that will listen to this and will digest it. Maybe they can immediately understand it, but I feel like there's a lot of women who down the road will be able to understand how scary that is to share. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Operation Pregnancy is a go. I'm cheering from the sidelines. Pregnant. She's going to be pregnant.
Yeah, Laura has been a great support. And just one other thing I wanted to say about it, and like you and I have talked about this a lot, is that people love to throw around IVF as like a backup plan that's always available. And not only is it extremely cost prohibitive to do IVF, and I was really fortunate that the insurance coverage I have actually made the process that I did like in 2024 leading up to this point was almost completely covered. Like, and that's basically unheard of. Like, had I not had that, I don't think I would have even been able to try with my own eggs. So, very fortunate in that way. But IVF is not always an option from a financial perspective, but also from a biological perspective. Like, as I learned, you can be too infertile for IVF with your own eggs. And in the same way, you can, like, egg freezing is not always an option either for people.
Yes.
So,
and while we're at it, stop asking women when they're going to get pregnant.
Yes. Because if someone doesn't have a child, you should assume that they either don't want one or that they want one and they can't have one.
And it's none of your business.
And it's not their job.
Yeah. And it's not a small talk conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Asking that lightheartedly. Although you may think that it is a lighthearted conversation topic, it is not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think your story is a prime example of that. Like, I'm sure you don't want to unload on a person that would ask you that type of question.
Mm-hmm.
But
so. And also like my brother and his wife just had a baby this past year, and you know, sometimes people say things without meaning something, where they're like, oh, it's your turn next, or like, you know, when are you guys going to do this, or
doesn't
like that
this
kind
make
of thing.
You so excited?
Yeah, doesn't this make you want one? Like that kind of thing. I will also say as a PSA, if you are younger and you're listening to this, if you think that you will ever want to have children, and if you have the means, I would recommend freezing your eggs.
She said it.
Again, it costs money. I know like more and more companies are like covering it or partially covering it, and your insurance might even cover part of it. You'd have to look into it. But like, this is one thing that I wish if I had known when I was like 20 what was going on with my body and what was going to happen to me. I mean, I don't know how I would have done it, but I feel like if I knew that this was the outcome, I would have done everything I could have to freeze my eggs.
Yeah.
And like, if I end up having a daughter, I'm going to do everything I can to help her freeze her eggs if that's something she wants to do.
And while we're at it, can we please make a full hormone panel a part of a woman's annual visit?
Don't even get me started.
Why are we doing this, people? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, Women's Health Corner.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's true. We need to like make it easier for women to get this information about their bodies, because I did not know until it was too late. And also related to this, because I have practically reached menopause, it means I have been in perimenopause for the last like 8 to 10 years unknowingly. But it also now makes so much sense and answers a lot of like health issues I've been having for the last 8 to 10 years with no answers as to what was going on in my body. Again, we don't understand women's bodies and their hormones. We don't
take the time to listen to women.
No.
That's another thing. So
yeah.
Crazy stuff. Anything else for the soapbox before we step off of women's health? Let me think real quick. Hold on.
I know. I mean, we could talk about this all day. But also, please do reach out. Like, I'm happy to talk to anyone about this. If you want to DM me.
Yeah.
I'm a chatty gal, as you know. So
Yeah. And by the way, you can call our like podcast number or text our phone number. It's 717-382. If you want to talk about any of this, like,
yeah,
I feel like it's good conversation for the podcast. So
hit me up.
yeah, hit Sara up. Let's talk about it. Okay. On another totally different goal,
Our mutual goals.
our mutual goals.
Okay.
Okay. We are launching a Patreon in 2025.
Yes.
If you don't know what Patreon is, it is essentially a way for you to monetarily support creators, as well as get some perks potentially if you choose there's different tiers. So we are planning to launch that relatively soon. We'll give you more information when it's ready.
Mm-hmm.
But just know, like, we love our listeners and we really want to make this something that can financially fuel us a little bit. Right now, we've been running on a deficit and we would love to make a profit.
Or at least support itself, because this podcast does cost money to produce.
This is self-funded, a fun project, but we want to take it more seriously. We want to give extra bonus content. If you really just want to know what we're vibing with, we're planning on doing reactions to things that are not just Taylor related, but also like bonus Taylor content.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think we're going to post a little bit more on TikTok. So if you're not following us there, hopefully it survives. Find us on TikTok and on Instagram, but we'll be doing lots of stuff there. And we hope to connect with more Swifties and make silly videos. And yeah, we know now that the Eras Tour is done, like Swifties need each other. So
yeah,
the best way to support us right now is by word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Share this episode or share an episode with your other Swiftie friends if you're missing all the Taylor stuff. And we'll let you know when the Patreon launches. So
yeah, should be soon.
We're excited.
Okay. Should we get into the meat of the episode?
Yes. Okay. So Taylor updates. Well, before we talk about Swiftmas, the end of the Eras Tour is kind of like the whole, I guess, focus of this episode, because we're going to be talking about catching up, obviously, like we just did, but also the manuscript. And Taylor's last song on the surprise song on the Eras Tour was the manuscript. Yeah. So, I mean, how do we feel now that the Eras Tour is done?
I mean, it really does feel like an end of an era.
Truly.
I feel like we witnessed history. And I don't know if there will ever be anything like it until she goes on tour again.
And even then, like, I know that the Swifties are not going to disappoint, but like, don't you feel like this was like such a pinnacle of her career?
Yeah.
I can only imagine that her success will continue, but the way that the Eras Tour was like multi-generational and Barbie Land vibes and a time when history really just felt like girlhood. I don't know. I just feel like it's a really special time that we experience. And I don't know if, like, even in the future, if it's ever going to be the same. I can only hope. But it just feels really special.
Yeah. 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 I do wonder about Taylor a little bit, because I know whenever she reaches these peak moments, she always, like, that fear creeps in for her that she has reached her peak and it's kind of all downhill from there. Like, I think she felt like that after 1989. I mean, she felt like that after Fearless. So, like, every time she's reached a new level, I think she usually thinks like, oh, well, this is it for me. Like, I'm only getting older. People are going to get tired of me. So, like, I feel like she's either feeling that really hard right now and like an anxiety of like, how do I keep this up?
Yeah.
Or maybe the Eras Tour like proved to her that she doesn't have to worry about that.
Right. Like, well, we know that this is a creeping fear because she has songs like Nothing New. She also has Clara Bow. Basically these songs that associate like how Hollywood and the world take these female pop stars and discard them with something new and shiny within a matter of time. So I would be so curious to know if there is a documentary, like what is her state of mind post Eras Tour, you know? So
Yeah.
in addition to the Eras Tour ending, we also got Taylor's birthday party, which was Eras Tour themed.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved all these photos.
Mm-hmm.
The photo of him giving her the 22 hat and her face.
She looks like a child.
She's so cute. I love her.
Yeah.
But like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, what a stupid theme for a party. Like, you don't even know her. But like, part of me is like, you're not only celebrating her birthday, but also like her birthday after finishing the biggest project she's had in a very, very long time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't you want to like cap it off with something silly and fun? And like all of her friends dressed up in Eras Tour things. And like, it was also very meta because it was like Taylor Swift attending her own tour as
Right.
not Taylor Swift, which I
Yeah.
thought was like, I wonder if they've had conversations where she was like, I don't know, Travis, like sometimes I wish I could attend the Eras Tour,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I love the idea that she said that to him and he was like, I got an idea.
ding. Yeah.
But like you and I were chatting about how like if I was Taylor and I just finished up the Eras Tour, right?
Yeah.
And then it's my birthday. So then, and apparently she thought she was going to like a small intimate dinner, but then he surprised her with like friends and family. And then he like changed into his Eras Tour outfit and stuff. Like she obviously didn't plan a big party for herself.
Right.
She probably felt like everyone is sick of me.
Right.
Like this tour has been going on for like a year and a half, almost
Enough
2 years.
celebrating me. Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone's tired of me and the Eras Tour. But then to walk into a room and see everyone who cares about you literally celebrating that and being like, no, we love you. We loved your Eras Tour. We're going to miss it. We're so proud of you. And you should be so proud of this enormous achievement. Like it's so sweet when you think about it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's literally like, it's so thoughtful. It's like,
it is. It's so thoughtful.
When you compare it to the birthdays she's had in her life before, like, come on.
The moment I knew, never forget, Jake Gyllenhaal did not show up to her birthday party.
Yeah.
And so you compare that to this experience. And like we were saying, she needs to write a song about this and she needs to like interpolate the moment I knew.
Yeah, it needs to happen.
How crazy would that be?
It's so good. It's so good.
Also, can we talk about the lipstick smears? Like on Travis, on her like chin. The lipstick was everywhere.
Their first pap walk where she was wearing that like green, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, and he was dressed nice, but I don't remember what he was wearing. She was wearing like some green, like sort of like meshy shirt situation. And she just had lipstick all over her mouth. I was like, oh, it's real. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's real.
And he had foundation on his nose and you could see it had rubbed off of hers. He had like lipstick on his lips. And I love how people are like, that lipstick can withstand like 3.5 hours of the Eras Tour, like in the rain, but it is no match for Travis Kelce.
Apparently not. That was the moment I knew this was real. This is real. Like, this is real. So I'm so happy for her. And that's the thing that like, I would not saying that like a relationship fixed everything, but I do think her ending the Eras Tour, but also being in what seems to be a pretty stable relationship. Like, has she ever experienced that? Like, I mean, like truly, like, has she? She was.
Yeah, I mean, we all thought that her relationship with Joe was relatively stable and secure, but like, now we know a bit more about that.
Yeah.
And it certainly wasn't like this.
Not publicly, no, yeah. And I think the celebration of her so outwardly is something that we all love about Travis, and we can't help but stand. So,
before we forget, I just wanted to mention our last episode was like our Christmas episode, and we had someone, I think on our YouTube, comment, how did we not know about Swiftmas? Or I didn't know about it. Did you know about it?
Nope.
Okay, so real quick for the people. Swiftmas was back in 2014. Taylor hand selected some fans from Tumblr and who like she clearly like knows personally, because back in her Tumblr days, like she was interacting with people.
She was invested in people's lives.
Yeah. I mean, like it's like the same kind of people who she would invite for her secret sessions, but she
secret
selected
sessions.
a handful of them and she shopped for them for Christmas and like hand wrapped their gifts, gave them like handwritten notes about specific gifts and sent them to them.
And like the cutest wrapping paper would write handwritten notes. I remember you mentioned XYZ on your post. Here's this little, like the most thoughtful things. It's so sweet.
Yeah. So our bad. We didn't know about that. Listen, we have a Taylor Swift podcast, but we don't know everything.
We're still learning. We're still learning.
Yes. But I love that.
Well, jumping to another sort of holiday themed situation with Taylor, there's been a lot of like Valentine's Day lover vibes going on. She released Lover Live from Paris, which was in the shape of a heart. Super cute.
The vinyl, which I got one.
It's
I was
so
one of
cute.
the lucky people who actually got one.
Yeah, that was gone before I could even click the website.
Right.
And a lover cardigan, which is so cute. I have a student who has it, and it has the cutest little buttons, little heart buttons. It looks really, she said it's like one of her favorites because she likes the fabric. So I was like, okay. Also, the launch was very well done for this lover cardigan. Like, I was saying, like, they definitely like stepped up the merch rollout for that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's about. Lots of lover throwbacks. Maybe it's just because it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I'm clowning for like a lover deluxe for Valentine's Day.
Where are the lover vault songs?
Seriously.
Also, what happened to Need?
I don't know.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, there were 2 leaked songs. One was All of the Girls You Loved Before, and Need, but Need has never been officially been released.
Yeah, because she released All the Girls as like a single kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But clearly there's like other songs from Lover that have not been released. So give us the deluxe, girl.
Yeah. That would be awesome. That would be such a nice treat.
Yeah.
Other news.
All right, let's go to the Grammys.
Okay, a quick Grammy recap. Oh boy. All right. Well, no awards for our girl. I would hate to be a voter this year because this year at the Grammy Awards was stacked with the girlies.
It was stacked.
Yeah, and I think Taylor had the time of her life.
Sure did.
Always
does.
Always the life of the party. I think a lot of people were upset that both her and Billie did not walk away with anything. And I have so many thoughts about this because honestly, Midnight's won Album of the Year. And arguably, Tortured Poets is better for me. And I think a lot of Swifties would say that it is better. At least the Swiftie lore is that it's less commercial, I guess, and more authentic to like songwriter's perspective. I don't know. We've already gotten a lot of hate online for this, so.
Yeah, people did not like the fact that we think Beyonce deserves awards.
Yep. They hate us. Where's the Beehive, though?
I know. Where are they?
No one's defending us on this. And guys, like, I get it. We're all Swifties, but just because we're Swifties doesn't mean that we think that she deserves any and all awards. Like, there's a sphere out. There's a landscape that we need to keep in consideration. Anyway.
And
I love Tortured Poets. It should have won something, but unfortunately, like, I don't know where. So.
Yeah, like, I was hoping maybe she would have won, like, Best Music Video or something, but, like, I will say I was a little annoyed that Kendrick won as much as he did. But I also understand because, like, that song was such a huge cultural moment for the year.
Yeah.
But, like, I stayed up to watch the Grammys the whole time. And it was late.
Yeah.
And when they were about to announce Album of the Year, I'm like, I would have been happy with anyone except the men in the category.
Let the girls go. Yeah. Let them go off.
like you and I both kind of predicted that Cowboy Carter would win. And I think it's certainly deserving of it, but there were so many other albums that were also deserving of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the voting, I had no idea that there were 13,000 voters.
Yeah. So I do a lesson on the Grammy Awards. I had to educate myself on this because I didn't know. Yeah, there's 13,000 voters to like in the Recording Academy that vote. A lot of people argue like it doesn't represent, like it's not representative of, like, that's not enough of a pool, which I'm like, that's crazy. But yeah, it's 13,000 people. And for a long time, the Grammys were criticized because of not being inclusionary and stuff like that. I feel like they are improving. But yeah, so technically any artist can nominate themselves. But obviously they shorten the list down to 5-6 nominees. But it is really, it is an interesting process. And like I said, I would hate to be a voter this year, truly. Yeah. So,
but like, I thought there were like 12 voters.
No, I thought there was more than 13,000. I thought it would be like 100,000. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, and then also it's like, because like just looking at album of the year, for example, there were easily like 5 albums that could have won. So it's like, if there's 13,000 people voting, like those votes were probably fairly split across the category.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it has to get like a majority or something.
Don't know that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Like maybe Beyonce won with like 20% of the vote.
Like, right. Is it, does it have to be like a democracy vote where like it has to be over a percentage, or is it just like majority rule? Like, I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know. It is a shame because Tortured Poets is an incredible piece of work.
Truly.
But I also think of it as the anthology and not the standard album.
Same.
But I do think that the Grammys like love an edited piece of work. And like we've talked about this a ton, but like this album is like meant to feel messy.
Yeah.
Which we love.
Yeah. It also was a piece of work that came from like truly like the depths of her gut. Like, and that is messy, and that isn't edited, and that isn't like perfected, and I don't know, like aesthetically like aligned with you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why we understand it, but like to a broader audience, it may come across as like, this is so disjointed, there's no thematic, unifying themes. It's like, okay, well, you don't get it, okay? Which is why some of the early criticisms of the album, we were like, these people are terrible. They don't understand. Like, and I do think it's an album that has to sit with you for a long time. So imagine if you haven't heard Tortured Poets and like you're listening to it and you're having to think, this or Short and Sweet,
Right. Yeah. So. And I do think Tortured Poets is an album that years from now, people will look back on it as some of her greatest work.
Yeah.
And I think, we do that with Red, like looking back at Red, how it didn't win anything or whatever. And I think that's how it is with Taylor's work a lot of the time. Like even for me with Midnights, I had my moment with Midnights this past fall.
Yeah.
2 years after the album came out. And I think a lot of it has to do with like her songs become like, as Swifties, her songs become stronger to us as we spend time with them. They like develop this like nostalgia. So like when Midnights came out, I was like, I don't know where this ranks for me. Like it's certainly not my favorite. I don't know really how I feel about it. And then fast forward 2 years to this past fall. And like Midnights is a vibe. Okay.
Yes,
like,
it is.
Especially also now comparing it to Tortured Poets. When you listen back to Midnights, it's like, it does have its own sound.
Yeah.
And I think Tortured Poets will feel that way too when the next album comes out. So it's like, you almost have to look at them in hindsight
I also think Taylor has reached a point in her career where do you think she truly cares about getting a Grammy when she's literally had the best-selling world concert of all time? Like, I know that Grammys is a stamp of approval and being nominated is an honor and winning is an honor, but do we really think that she's like crying at night about that? I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing for her anymore.
I think maybe this year could be the first time that she truly doesn't care that much.
Right.
I think she still cares.
Of course.
But she clearly had a blast at the Grammys. I'm sure she's fully aware of the competition she was up against this year.
And she's everyone's biggest fan. You saw so many behind the scenes pictures of her taking pictures with SZA, whispering to Chapel Roan. Like I feel for her, like, I don't know, there has to be some sort of like perspective switch after what was the Eras tour that I think like when you're young and up and coming and she's releasing 1989, like that is a huge deal for her to win all those Grammys. And like that for her was the industry signing off on her success. I don't think that she necessarily needs that anymore, but I'm also not Taylor. So how do I know?
Right.
Anyway, speaking of the dress was hot.
Oh my God.
The dress was hot.
She looked incredible. Still figuring out what the heck that dress means. Is it just red for Travis?
Is it a red herring?
But I did see that one thing online where someone was saying like, maybe it was red, like a curtain, like the curtain closing on the Tortured Poets era. And actually like her dress was really similar to last year's dress, but just like short and red.
I also saw a lot of people associating with like, it's sort of like Grecian, like the way it was draped was very like Grecian draping. And like, that's a callback to the Karma music video. Like you could tie in a lot of Easter eggs. I truly think she thought to herself, I'm wearing Chiefs red and I want to look hot. And I'm going to wear a T garter that says, what if he's written mine on my upper thigh? And
although the T could be for Taylor. But
true.
I think it's for Travis.
Yeah.
I don't know. She looked hot. She had a blast. And yeah, we won't know what it means until we know what it means.
Also, how can these people attend these award shows and not be acting like Taylor?
Right?
If I were there, I'd be right there. I'd be like, girl, yes, we're having the best time.
I also saw something that apparently at one point she said that like, this is the closest she gets to like going to concerts because she doesn't really get to go to them.
Right.
So yeah, for her, she's like, oh my God, all these like amazing artists are performing. Yeah. Of course, I'm going to stand up and have fun. And I do really think that a lot of it is her wanting to show her support because she knows what it feels like to be on that stage. But that's also like crazy to me that other people aren't doing that.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Also, one of my favorite moments was right at the beginning. Did you know that Cynthia Erivo was sharing her seat because she was like struggling to find her own seat, and Taylor was like scooched over and was like, "Here, share mine."
Well, did you also know that Cynthia Erivo basically bumped into Beyonce before she won Best Country Album? I saw a clip of her basically like shaking Blue Ivy's hand. And Blue Ivy's like, oh my God. And then she was like, nice to meet you. And Beyonce's like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. She sits down while Taylor is announcing Best Country Song.
No.
And that's the memeified moment where Beyonce goes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Oh my gosh. And
so
Taylor
Cynthia
also,
was everywhere.
Taylor also did the holding space finger holds. She's just like us.
Yes, she is. We love her.
By the way, quick update. I did see Wicked and I loved it.
Yes.
I saw it.
I saw it twice. I want to see it again.
I would go again. I would definitely go again.
It's on streaming if you want to watch it.
Yeah, that's true. It is fun on the big screen though.
That is a movie that's best on the big screen. Like, it's so beautiful. Anyway, the Manuscript?
Let's get into it.
Okay. So we are going to talk about the Manuscript, which we talked about is the final surprise song on the Eras Tour. And this was a request from Richard.
From Richard, our number
Hi,
one
Richard.
fan. Yes, Richard requested this. And it was like high on my list as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we are saying it was the final surprise song, but it was part of a mashup with
Yes.
Long Live, New Year's Day, and the Manuscript.
Yes.
But we all assumed the Manuscript would somehow be involved in the final mashup.
Mm-hmm.
And we were correct. We get it right
correct.
sometimes.
Sometimes we clown right. So there you go. So what is your personal association with this song? Like when you think of this song, what do you think of?
What do I think of?
This one hits deep for Sara. So
okay, listen, if you have listened to our episode about our like initial reactions to the Tortured Poets album, then you know that this song is emotional for me.
Okay. This one hits different for Sara.
This one hits different for me. Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is my song. Don't you dare speak ill of it. It is beautiful. It's a masterpiece. And it like, yeah, because I had the reaction that I had to it, it's like, you can't take this song from me. It's very important. But yeah, so this song, when we did our initial listen, gave me instant tears. I should say more like instant sob / mental breakdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll talk about it more later, but there's a specific line that just really hit home for me in a very, very personal way. And I mean, it was probably like 2 months after this album came out before I could like hear that line and not cry.
Yeah.
So, and even now, like if I'm in a specific mood, I'll still cry. So, I mean, I cried doing the notes for this episode.
Yeah.
I might cry later. Stay tuned.
The way that you were like, this is my song. She wrote this for me.
Yeah.
Mine was I Hate It Here. And when that song had a resurgence right after the election, I was like, now you get it?
Right.
Now you get it. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
So we all have our songs that we're like, Taylor wrote that for me in mind. And this was one for you for sure.
Yeah.
My initial thoughts was like, I remember feeling so zonked. Like we were
tired.
We were so tired. We were plowing through. We were like, oh my God, we're on the last song. And I remember being like, okay, we can like listen, like be aware, like whatever. Like take it in. And then like Sara started to sob. And I was like, my main priority is making sure that Sarah's okay. And like, I was just like, when you were like, we'll talk about it, but like that specific lyric, I was like, oh my God, this is so, like, how does it have to end on this? And then Sarah's to drive home.
Right. I like 2 a.m.
What? Yeah. Next time it's just going to be a sleepover. Okay.
Yeah.
Next time
true.
It's going to be a
Next
sleepover.
time also.
It has to be. Yeah. Anyway, but I do remember it just being so tired listening to this after work. We hadn't listened to it with no Easter eggs and just like being like, oh my God, how many songs are in this album?
Right.
Crazy. But it is the ultimate catharsis song. So when I was like, oh, like, how do I like summarize what this song feels like to me? It's catharsis, which I think I wrote the definition on here somewhere. Where did I put that?
Did you?
I don't know. Hold on. So catharsis is essentially like a process of releasing and providing relief through the creation of, or strongly, oh my God, the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. So when you think about the lyrics, a lot of this had to be repressed because she's revisiting things from her past. And I'm sure writing this felt like a cathartic situation. So anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's get into the folklore of the song. Starting with the definition of a manuscript is a book, document, or piece of music written by hand rather than typed or printed. Or also just an author's text that has not yet been published.
Which is exactly what this song is. So.
Yeah. And so the consensus in the fandom, because Taylor has not officially confirmed this, but is that the manuscript is about creating the short film for the All Too Well 10-minute version. and how like making it healed the wounds for her. And I think also in a broader sense, it's about how writing her music in general is healing for her, and it becomes something new once it's out in the world.
Yeah. And
like
it becomes something else once it's out there in
Yeah.
the world. It becomes everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she even like talked about that on the Eras tour, I think for the Lover era. Because like, I mean, if you think about her performing the song Lover, like about Joe,
I can't.
and like there is apparently the one of her crying during that song, like post breakup, but like she talks about how she wrote all these songs about specific moments in time for her, but when we all leave the concert, she's like, I want you to think of this time that we spent together. Like now this song is like about us.
Yeah.
So like she writes these songs about a lot of like bad moments for her, but then she puts them out into the world as songs, and then they get listened to by her fans, and it becomes this whole new thing that is no longer about the original thing.
Yeah. I also think the placement of the song on the record is important too, because like the fandom also kind of like, we really listen to the last track because oftentimes she sort of gives us clues as to like what the next sound or the next step is for herself. Like not outright, but like very subliminally. So for example, like Hoax was on Folklore, and it turns out that Folklore wasn't just a single album. It had a sister album called Evermore, right? So it was a fake out. New Year's Day sort of has that romantic ballady feel that like Lover was all about, in a pretty much otherwise like tough electronic sounding album. It was more like, you know, acoustic and gentle. Begin Again was the last one on Red, which definitely was about essentially her saying like, I'm moving on from this relationship. I'm beginning a new chapter. Like this is me like moving on from this. And then I thought it was interesting because like Clean is the last track on 1989. And I don't know if she did this intentionally, but she does wipe the slate clean with Reputation, the next album. Like it, like she's abandoning the Taylor Swift you know is dead, like cleaning the slate, like, you know. And then the Manuscript obviously is rewriting her story to her fans and letting go of the Eras Tour chapter too, I think.
Yeah, but also, like, is there a book on the way? Is she telling us that she's writing a book? But also, we know she has a movie coming out, although haven't heard anything about that officially in a while.
Yeah. No.
And I think you could also call like a script for a movie, like a screenplay that hasn't been released, you could call that a manuscript.
As long as it's a document.
Right.
Yeah. I think to me, a book would be so interesting. I mean, like, and that's also in All Too Well 10 is that the main character of the music video releases a book. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it is an interesting choice of words. And we'll see what it means in like 5 years. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we get into it? Like,
let's get into it for real.
Okay. Here is the introduction. Okay.
All right, so this instrumental.
It's so good.
It is.
Okay. So immediately I was like, okay, the production of that piano is so beautiful because it feels like you are just playing a grand piano in a enormous space, cavernous space, but it feels very still and very quiet. Like you're alone.
Yeah. And very like
yes. And then there's this beautiful descending line in the left hand of that piano. It goes from a C major chord to a seventh and adds a seventh going down to the B. And that adds so much tension. And because it's a descending line in that left hand, bum, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
That allows us to literally sink into the past and sink into this story like you would when you reminisce about something that you are still unpacking. And
Ooh.
I love that. Like, this is why music theory is so fun.
Music teacher Laura has arrived.
Hello. Clocking in. But like the chord progression is nothing crazy. But because we know the context of this song and we know the lyrics, we know that Taylor is about to take us on a story going back into the past, which requires us to actually sink in and move inwards and also move backwards, which is what that descending line literally does. Major, she's a queen. Like, I love that. Okay.
Well, so also this little piano intro is important because I remember this from like back when the album came out. This guy on TikTok named Brian Finelli, he has this awesome video, which we will link to, where he plays that piano line over the intro for the All Too Well 10. And we clip that out. So this is him playing them together. And it, just listen. Okay.
It's so good.
Just going to let everyone sit with that for just a minute.
Yeah, we're sitting with it. We're sitting with it. We're sitting with it. It's, which makes you wonder, did she think to herself, okay, I'm going to write this, but I want it to match up with All Too Well's chord progression?
She had to. Yeah.
So
in that sense, she has confirmed.
I
mean, also a lot of the lyrics are like an obvious nod to the subject of All Too Well 10. But I mean, hello.
She says it all without saying a word. Okay.
Yeah.
We're understanding. We see you, Taylor. We see you. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so let's unpack a little bit more so that we can understand like how we know what this is about. So here's verse 1. We're going to get some of the story.
Now and then she rereads the manuscript of the entire torrid affair. They compared their licenses. He said, I'm not a donor, but I'd give you my heart if you needed it. She rolled her eyes and said, you're a professional. He said, no, just a good Samaritan. He said that if the sex was half as good as the conversation was, soon they'd be pushing strollers. But soon it was over.
Ouch. Oh my
gosh. Okay, so now and then she rereads the manuscripts of the entire torrid affair.
Well, first of all, writing this in third person, like not I, she reads the manuscript, which is removing herself slightly. Like she's obviously like unpacking this, right? And I love the word torrid because I just looked up what the definition of torrid is. It is full of difficulty or tribulation, which we know the relationship we're about to talk about was full of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is, so the fact that she uses the word she and not I, like I thought about that for a second. I was like, okay, so this is obviously her framing this traumatic / torrid relationship as a story. It's not hers anymore, spoiler alert, but she's like presenting it to us as a physical story that we can watch and observe, and not something that she has like lived and is telling her like girlfriends. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And like it's her story, but she's writing it as an author of a story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. She's removed from it.
Right.
It's like compartmentalized.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So good.
I also think like the 10-minute version of the song is like a literal book.
Oh, yeah.
Like not just in the length of it, but also in the way that it tells the story. So calling it a manuscript, I feel like, is kind of a nod to the length of that song and like a reference to it. It's like, hey, remember that book I wrote, turned it into a song?
It's like a novella. It's like, yeah. It's for real. Okay. The next verse, they compared their licenses.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I was like, why would a person compare their licenses? Like, probably because you're going to a bar and you're carded and like you're like, wait, let me see your license. That's like something cute you do when you're like getting to know someone and you're like, look at how cute you are or whatever.
Yeah.
They compared licenses though. Is obviously them comparing what the biggest difference is between them, which is their age.
Yeah.
Okay. So
age.
You look at, oh my God, you were born in 19, blah, 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 blah. Signaling the age difference, which is later referred to in the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, comparing licenses, interesting. Anyway. And obviously being a donor is like, are you on the donor list? Like, organ donor. But like, is that not something that the person we're referring to would say?
What, the thing that I'm not a donor, but I'd give you my heart if you needed it? Okay.
Yeah.
So this line, he said that if the sex was half as good as the conversation was, soon they'd be pushing strollers. But soon it was over.
Okay.
Yeah, so I freaked out about this lyric when we listened the first time.
Yes, you did.
Because like he's saying the sex was bad. And he's saying they had good conversation, but the sex wasn't up to snuff. And again, remember the age difference, okay? He's saying like if it was the whole package, it would be everything he wanted. But clearly it wasn't, because they broke up.
So I never took this as he was saying the sex is bad. I took this as he said that if the sex was half as good as the conversation was, soon they'd be pushing strollers. Like, hee, ha, ha. We have great conversation. We have great banter. We're on the same level.
Oh, I see.
But then in her brain, like, she's thinking,
like before
my God, like, yes, before they've done the dirty. Okay. And then afterwards,
I see.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like a soon we be pushing strollers, and she's like, oh my God, so we're going to be like, we're like a match made in heaven. Like, this is like, we have it all. But soon it was over refers to,
I see.
Actually, like, that was all talk. Like, that was all talk.
Okay. Or
that's how
it means, I totally see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, especially if it's like, they're out at a bar, they're comparing licenses. He's like, oh my God, if the sex is half as good as this conversation, like, we're going to get married.
We're going to get making babies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to be humping like rabbits, like something snarky like that. And then as a young girl, you're like, oh my God, like, this is like everything.
But soon it was over, which you could still take that to mean like,
absolutely.
He was like, the sex was not half as good. It's a conversation.
Or I'm saying whatever I can to get you into bed, and then you know what I mean?
Yeah. False promises,
all talk, that sort of situation. I could see this being like banter when you're like first, flirting with someone and yeah. And also, like, not to TMI for my girl Taylor, but she did say that the scarf is a metaphor. Okay. The scarf is a metaphor for something.
Yeah.
And if you are unsure what we're talking about, Richard, okay, I'm here for you. Okay. Let me explain. Okay. Specifically, Richard, because I don't know if you know this, Richard. Okay. So we're talking in between lines. We think the subject of this song is about Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay. If you watch 10-minute All Too Well, it is obviously about Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay. movie premiere of the music video, someone asked, is the scarf a metaphor? And she said, yes, the scarf is a metaphor. Like, stop bringing it up. Like, blah, 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 blah. And the scarf refers to the song in All Too Well, where she leaves her scarf there from the very first week because it smells like innocence. Right. And it smells like me or whatever, which refers to the fact that he has something of hers that he can never return. Hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Innocence.
But, okay. So I'm just going to say it. People think that the scarf is a metaphor for her virginity. Okay. But she dated John Mayer before him. And if you listen to the song, Would've, Could've, Should've, it sounds like John Mayer may have taken that mantle. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
So.
Maybe. Regardless, we know this about Jake Gyllenhaal.
I will say, you could still make an argument for this scarf being a metaphor for her innocence, even if it isn't technically like her V card or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, the fact that they had this age difference and I'm sure she was never the same after that relationship. So you could also think of it as a metaphor for her innocence in that way.
I think so. So let's get a verse 2 where we could unpack more of these like Easter eggs about why we think this is about Jakey Jake. Shall we? Okay, here we go.
Okay.
In the age of him, she wished she was 30 and made coffee every morning in a French press. Afterwards, she only ate kids' cereal and couldn't sleep unless it was in her mother's bed. Then she dated boys who were her own age, with dartboards on the backs of their doors. She thought about how he said, since she was so wise beyond her years, everything had been above board. She wasn't sure.
All right. Here we are.
Age difference.
Yeah. So, and for reference, he was like 31 and she was like 19.
Which makes sense.
No, she was turning 21. So I think they had about a 10-year age difference.
Yeah.
He was in his early 30s. She was in her early 20s.
And she literally says, in the age of him, she wishes she was 30. Which,
right.
Yeah.
And made coffee every morning in a French press.
And like, as a gal who's like been the younger in like relationships, now not a 10-year age difference, so I've never been that. But like, I remember wishing I was like the same age as that person and like, oh, they're so mature. Oh, they can drive. Oh, they can do XYZ. Like, and, you know, wishing your life away to be at the same place as that person because you kind of put them on a pedestal in a way that you shouldn't. But like, yeah, romanticizing what it means to be an older person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And like being an adult, making coffee before you go to work, all that kind of stuff. But that's not something you think about when you're in that phase of life. That's something you think about when you are younger and you're romanticizing the idea of like being that adult. So like she wouldn't have that thought if she was at that place in life. Just
definitely not.
Sad.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we hit the next line, which is the lyric.
The lyric. Okay.
The lyric.
This is the lyric that broke me. It is.
Yeah.
Afterwards, she only ate kids' cereal and couldn't sleep unless it was in her mother's bed. Just for a quick recap, if you have not listened to our Tortured Poets like reaction episode to hear me like sob about this. When I got divorced from my ex-husband in 2020, which happened because he realized he was gay. So a very, very amicable, sweet divorce, but also very traumatic in its own way, even because of that. when we realized for sure that we were separating and he was going to move to Ohio, we went and bought a ton of cereal and we called it grief cereal. And that is pretty much all we ate for like 2 weeks. And also in that time period, I could not sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you've ever experienced like true like grief and anxiety like that, you cannot sleep. And so to have Taylor Allison Swift write a lyric about in the aftermath of a breakup, only eating kids' cereal and not being able to sleep, as someone who has experienced that, this is why I sobbed immediately. It was the kids' cereal, like the kids' cereal line hit me as soon as it registered in my brain what she said. And then when the next lyric was about not being able to sleep, I was like, pause the music. Laura, I'm having a breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy because like she literally juxtaposed wishing she were older, being 30, but then afterwards literally reverting back to her kid-like self. Okay.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like that is a very vulnerable, descriptive way to explain that feeling. And like, I keep telling my kids about this, but like sometimes when an artist writes something so obscure and you're like, what the heck are they even saying? One day you'll listen to it and you'll be like, oh my God, because it's so specific. But that's why it hit so hard for you, because it's so specific.
It is so specific.
And you're like, what how did she know? How did she know?
Yeah. And how did she know? And like, I wasn't like sleeping in my mom's bed, but I was absolutely leaning on my parents in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like a ton.
Yeah.
I'm as someone who is close to my parents and they lived nearby. So like, yeah, I was like going home, especially once like he moved away and I was suddenly living alone in my house. Like I was over at their house for dinner many nights and like watching Schitt's Creek and eating ice cream.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and my mom did offer for me to sleep over like the first night that I was alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, I just have to rip this Band-Aid off. I just have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it is such a sad way to drive home that point about how young she actually was.
Yeah.
And even though she tried so hard to feel like she was like mature enough for this relationship and this person, in actuality, she was a child.
She was literally a child. And she's able to understand that now. She's able to like clearly describe that now, which is something you can't do at this specific time. And like, we also know she associates ages with this section of All Too Well.
You said if we had been closer in age, maybe it would have been fine. And that baby wants to die.
Yeah. I mean, and that line too is also like a real ball buster. The first time we heard it in All Too Well 10, it's like, Taylor, no.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah. And like, then she started dating boys her own age with dartboards on the back of their doors, which is like such a clear and very specific detail, once again, that she does really well, of like youth, like literally like bro culture of like young teenage boys, like Connor Kennedy, potentially, Harry Styles.
Yeah.
You know,
also, I feel like this goes along with the previous lyric, because when do you have a dartboard on the back of your door? It's in your own bedroom, in your parents' house.
In your parents' house. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like on the back of his apartment door.
No, it's not in his penthouse apartment. Okay. Like, no. And like I mentioned, I know what it's like to like romanticize what it must be like to be older. Now, not to this degree, but like when the line is, she thought about how he said she was so wise beyond her years. Everything had been above board. She wasn't sure. Do you want to talk about me and my therapy appointments? Hello. Literally, I remember like guys rationalizing being with me, even though I wasn't 10 years younger. I was like 4 years younger. Because, oh, well, you're so mature. You're not like girls your own age. Like, you're so wise beyond your years. So it's fine. Like, you're not like the rest of them. Right. And like, you think that that's true. So you think it's okay. But then like, what really is happening is like, you are a child. You are a child. Okay. And she wasn't sure even then.
Yeah. Even then, she was like,
yeah,
this is a little sus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Musical interlude.
Okay. I have a lot to say about this.
Okay. Okay, I have to be honest with you. I don't hear this, but I'm interested to hear your comparison. Okay.
This is one of my favorite parts of the song, this little musical interlude. I love it so much. And so we know that the next lyrics that come in are, and the years pass.
Yeah, that's coming.
And to me, this section feels like time moving ahead. Like literally like we're like fast forwarding through time, maybe seeing like a montage in a movie. So it's like she just kind of gave us the breakdown of what happened. And now we're moving through time to like where she is now and looking back on it. Okay. And this is a deep cut. All right. But this song, this part of the song reminds me of the prelude from Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
The movie. And this is what that sounds like. Okay.
Okay. I don't hear it.
You don't?
No. Okay, I love that song.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's obviously like a more like sped up version of this interlude for the manuscript. I think for me, it's like the actual like piano work is kind of similar, but also like the way it feels to me is like exactly the same as this prelude from Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. And also like it is a fitting similarity because the prelude is setting the story for the movie and it like involves a jump in time.
Right.
So yeah, please comment if you hear what I'm hearing. Because
I will admit, this song to me, I got roasted once. I was once in Disney World and there was like a Beauty and the Beast show. And I was like, this is Saison Carnival of the Animals Aquarium. And they were like, this is Beauty and the Beast. What the f are you talking about? Like, and I was like, this sounds like Saison. And then I like listened to it afterwards and I was like, don't you hear it? And they were like, that's not what we were listening to. And I was like, okay. Like, so this song apparently for both of us is just like, yeah.
And I really think about it like every time I listen to the manuscript. So it's
interesting.
It's like really in my brain somehow. But I did listen to that soundtrack religiously as a child. And I wonder if Taylor did too. Like, I would love to know.
Has to be like late 80s, early 90s babies. Like, that was our movie. Like, Belle was my girl.
Definitely.
Like, for sure.
Like, I would love to know if Taylor heard me say this. Like, would she be honored? Would she be like, that's what I was going for?
Or would she be like, I wasn't going for that, but like, I like
it.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I had to get that off my chest. So if anyone agrees with me,
I don't think I would have ever connected that, but like, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's listen to the bridge. Here we go.
And the years passed like scenes of a show. The professor said you're right, what you know, looking backwards might be the only way to move forward. Then the actors were hitting their marks, and the slow dance was alight with the sparks, and the tears fell in synchronicity with the score. And at last, she knew what the agony had been for.
So beautiful.
She popped off with that one. Okay.
Yeah.
The professor said to write what you know, which is like such a cliche thing that English professors say. It's like, if you don't know what to write about what you know.
Right.
And I was like, she knows this story. She remembers it all too well, honey.
Right.
She knows this story.
Mm-hmm.
She remembers it.
Yeah.
She was there. It was rare. Anyway, you get the picture.
Yeah. And looking backwards might be the only way to move forward. It really touches on how writing is like a form of therapy and allows her to process like all the hurts and trauma she's experienced. But also like you have to face the past to be able to move on from it. She has to actually look back at it, acknowledge the way that it affected her, and maybe literally put it into song in order to be able to move on from it and put it behind her.
Yep. Then the actors were hitting their marks. So obviously this refers to the filming of All Too Well 10 Minutes music video. And this is also the first time we hear vocal harmonies, which I think is very intentional because if you think about it, this was probably the first step of her adding different voices into the collaborative art that is telling the story. Because she's the director. Now she has actors that, I mean, we've seen behind the scenes clips of where she's telling Sadie, like, why don't you try this? And then you should do XYZ. And they're like, oh, what if I did XYZ? Blah, blah, blah. So now we're hearing another layer of harmonies, meaning like there's more people involved in this story outside of just like solely her telling it.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was kind of cool. And also like Aaron adds this sort of like thumping, like bass parts to this after she wasn't sure, which is like, so good. Just at that cinematic quality. It's beautiful.
And I love the way the lyric and the tears fell in synchronicity with the score. The way that lines up with the melody there is so satisfying and is kind of like word painting of like what she's trying to say. It's like everything lines up perfectly.
Literally synchronicity. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, like at last she knew what the agony had been for. It's like taking control over something that obviously was very painful and making it into something beautiful, adding like, it was all worth it. Like, this is what it's all about. And like, she takes her life and the trauma and the pain and basically releases it into like a beautiful thing. And we all connect to it. That's why we love Taylor. It's because she takes these things that are really raw and really painful that we haven't experienced ourselves, but we're able to connect with in our own way because she is so specific and so raw and like is able to share it so beautifully. So like,
hello,
that's what the agony has been for, right?
Yeah. Like it's such a silver lining because like some of her most painful moments have become the most beautiful things in her life by using these painful moments to create her music, which then goes out into the world and she connects to her fans in that way. And then she goes on tour with it. And now, you know, like she said, now she thinks of performing it on the Eras tour instead of like this painful moment, which caused her to write the song in the first place. Yeah. So she knew what the agony had been for. It was for all this.
Yep.
That's crazy. But yeah, the cinematic quality to this song is like instant emotion for me. Like the way it builds, especially in this like final section that we're talking about. But like Aaron Dessner, fantastic. I love it. He did a lovely job.
Great work.
Yeah. And let's
listen to the bridge from the Eras tour.
The years passed like scenes of a show. The professor said to write what she knows. Looking backwards might be the only way to move forward.
Hear the audience
That's so
singing
cool.
along.
Yeah.
And the actors were hitting their marks. And the slow dance was alive with the sparks. And the tears fell in synchronicity with the score. And at last, she knew what the agony happened for.
You can like hear her smile when she says that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such like I'm glad we have these clips because to hear her perform it in that venue and like with the crowd and hear the cheering after she knew what the agony had been for, like
Yeah. So
talk
good.
about catharsis.
Yeah.
my
Like in
gosh.
action. All right. Let's do the outro.
The only thing that's left is the manuscript. One last souvenir from my trip to your shores. Now and then I reread the manuscript, but the story isn't mine anymore.
Okay, wait. I have to ask you. I forgot to make a note about this. What note is she ending on? Like, it's unresolved, right?
Yeah, it's an unresolved chord. It doesn't end on one.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had a keyboard. If I had a keyboard, I could tell you. I wish I had a keyboard. If I had a keyboard, I'd be able to pluck it out like right now. So I think she may mine anymore ends on do, but the chord is not resolved underneath it.
Okay.
So that's my music theory nerds. Like, I can't confirm that because I don't have a keyboard in front of me, but I will follow up in the next episode. But
okay.
it's an unresolved ending. It does not end on the tonic in terms of the chord progression.
Okay. Because the thing that my brain always does there is like, I want it to end like, the story isn't mine anymore. It's yours. Like, I like to go down and back up at like it would be a resolved chord. But it's like, even like the way she ends it, it's like implied that she's saying it's yours now. So it's like, I kind of want her to sing that.
Yeah, you want like a Tito, like
yes,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah. Well, it's kind of implied, right? Because it's unresolved, and you're like, well, what's she gonna say next? Like, what's next? And that's sort of amazing because the story isn't done. Like, she's going to continue writing about her life and sharing with us, and that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to check out what the chord progression is, but it ends on do, but the chord progression underneath isn't do. So leaves you uneasy, which is kind of a cool detail. Okay, so unpacking some of the lyrics, I picked up that one last souvenir from my trip to your shores, which of course is like, this is her saying, this is my last time. I'm revisiting this. Like, I've moved on. I'm processing this and I'm like boxing this up and moving on. But it did make me think of like shores, like how many times she has talked about shores. She's obviously used the idea of like shipwreck.
Yeah.
And the ship was going down and like I was going down with it. But like it made me think of this from Long Story Short.
And my waves meet your shore ever and evermore.
Technically, I think that's the only time she ever uses the word shore in terms of like referring to a past relationship. But like, she obviously does love that symbolism. This is not related to that song, I don't think. But she loves this idea of like voyaging on a ship.
Yeah.
To associate with relationships, but whatever.
Right.
The last track on Midnights was Dear Reader. And that's another thing. Dear Reader was saying basically like never take advice from someone who's falling apart.
Yeah.
And we didn't know at the time that she was literally like falling apart at the seams from her relationship. And this like whole Joe, you know, situation was unfolding.
Yeah.
And like she literally was confessing that to us. And by the way, like I am a Dear Reader stan.
Me too.
I love that song.
Yes.
But it goes from like Dear Reader to this.
Yeah.
Which is like growth. Big growth, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the story now belongs to the reader.
Us.
She's like, this has allowed her to move on and make it ours. It's like, hello, look at the way I relate to this song in a completely different and personal way than the way she originally intended, like the lyrics to mean. And this is also her saying, like, this isn't me anymore. Like, I've moved on from this. I have grown as a person, and now I can look back on this with a different perspective as like just part of my history, but it's not like affecting me anymore, you know?
Yep. I'm releasing this.
Yeah.
So
we
good.
do also have this part clipped from the final surprise song to listen to.
Only thing that's left is the manuscript. One last souvenir from my trip to your shores. Now and then I reread the manuscript, but the story isn't mine anymore.
I still love this like piano outro that she does. So at this part, I was like, is she about to go into another song?
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, that was emotional. I was laying in my bed at like 1:30 in the morning crying, watching that live.
It was
on the live
that was
stream.
an early morning for us East Coasters for sure.
Yeah, I was setting my alarm to wake up for those.
So good. Okay. Real quick before we move on, I did see a theory on Reddit that I really like.
Okay.
Which is this theory that the bridge to the outro is a clue about the re-release order.
Okay.
So the first is looking backwards might be the only way to move forward, which is going back to Fearless. So her saying, I'm going back, I'm going backwards. Fearless was the first.
Okay.
The actors were hitting their marks is red because of All Too Well 10 Minute.
Okay.
And the slow dance was a light with the sparks, which made me think of this from Speak Now.
I see sparks fly whenever you smile.
Okay, a light with the sparks. Okay. And the tears fell with synchronicity to the score. I don't have any reason for that on there for 1989.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be.
I don't know what that was. But then Reputation, and at last she knew what the agony had been for. In the Reputation tour, during like the movie segue clip, she has this section where she said, and in the death of her reputation, she truly felt alive. Meaning, this is what the agony was for. Debut is next. The only thing that's left is the manuscript. One last souvenir to my trip to your shores. The last revisiting of where her story truly started. And then now and then I reread the manuscript, but the story isn't mine anymore, is the Eras Tour saying the Eras Tour is closed. So will she release Reputation next, Debut, and then do something related to the Eras Tour? Maybe it's a
like a soundtrack.
I don't know. Soundtrack, documentary, book, I don't know, something like that. So their theory is basically saying Reputation, Debut, and then Eras Tour related things. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. So there you go. I don't know if I really buy into it, but it is a cool idea, I think.
Yeah, I think we Swifties love, especially with a bridge, we love to try to like break it up and be like, this is referencing every album.
Boy. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's.
Yeah.
I
think so too. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Favorite lyric?
Well, in case you couldn't guess, this is my favorite lyric.
Afterwards, she only ate kids' cereal and couldn't sleep unless it was in her mother's bed.
Because apparently I'm a masochist. That's my favorite lyric.
Yes.
And I give this song a 9 out of 10. For me, this is I understand why this song doesn't hit for everyone. It's a little different, but it hits for me.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah, and I think it's beautiful. I love the message of it. I think it is, in a lot of ways, like a classic version of why Taylor Swift is a phenomenal songwriter. So for me, it's a 9 out of 10.
Heck yeah.
What about you?
So this is my favorite lyric. She knew what the agony had been for.
Which is like catharsis in a nutshell. And I just think that lyric sort of summarizes what this song is all about, like taking trauma and, unpacking and sharing it and understanding like what you're doing by sharing it and like what the agony is all about. And I gave this an 8.8. So it's a phenomenal song. I was thinking I would love to like do a last track comparison. The last track of like Reputation, the last track of 1989, like all of it to like compare what my favorite is. Cause like Dear Reader is one of my favorites, but I love Clean.
Yeah.
Like that's the last track on 1989. Anyway, so this was a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really glad we talked about it. This is one I was really excited for because, as you can tell, I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
Including weird references to Beauty and the Beast. Okay. So.
Yeah. No shame. No shame.
So this song is a recipe. There's only one answer.
Yeah. There's only one answer. Kid cereal.
Yeah. When you think kid cereal for this, which cereal specifically do you think of?
I think of like really cold milk and something like, like a Cinnamon Toast Crunch or like a Frosted Flakes or like something that you like is super sugary.
Yeah.
A mature adult would never choose based off of its sugar content, but like you're eating it as a form of therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, that was really, at the time, it was Lucky Charms. For sure. Lucky Charms, but it also makes me think of like Fruity Pebbles. Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Something really sugary.
Which is funny because like the song is not Fruity Pebbles.
No.
But it's like
it's understanding that
crying into a bowl of
the cereal is like exactly. You get it. Shall we sign off?
All right. Yeah, before we lose Lara completely to her internet.
It's a terrible day. Let's call it a day.
Also, I just want to say this PSA just generally for this podcast. If it ever sounds like Lara and I are just like completely talking over each other, it's just a technical issue. It means that we don't know that we're doing it because of like the delay and things. Yeah. So if you ever hear that, you're like, oh my God, Sarah's so rude. She's just barreling over Lara or vice versa.
It's me. I feel like it's me barreling over you. So yeah, it's not us being rude to each other. It's literally just because I don't even know she's talking.
Yeah. We don't know.
Yeah. And then as soon as I do, I'm like,
yeah, we're doing our best.
Yeah. Hey, if you join our Patreon down the road, we can afford all the best equipment, you guys. So,
yeah, if you want us to update ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want us to be able to afford really fast internet,
that would be amazing.
Our Patreon in the future.
We'll let you know.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for joining us on this journey that we took today. As we have come back for season 3 of the pod. We hope you stuck around during our break and we'll continue listening because we have a lot more to say coming soon.
Sure do.
So.
Yeah. And If you would like to support us for the time being, before our Patreon is up, make sure you're following us on the social medias. Make sure you're following us on TikTok. We are at Blank Plate Pod, as well as Instagram. We're sharing reels all the time, so catch us there.
Yes. And you can check out our website at blankplatepodcast.com. Please send us an email at blankplatepod@gmail.com. You can also text us or leave us a voicemail at 717-382-8313. So please reach out.
Yeah. And until then, we've had the time of our lives with you.
And it's time to go. So bye.